gonna cut yourself off.
Alright. Never.
Yeah?
Isn't that good?
Yeah. Compromise.
Good. That's fine. You can,
I can feel myself
you can
becoming-
totally do what you want to do.
Well, we'll
believe
set
me.
some lights up here.
Yeah.
We need some
Yeah, we
backup.
need
We need
Joe.
more plants.
This is our test. This is our test video.
Oh
okay?
yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like a guinea pig then.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, but you know, I'm nervous because I really want to make videos that really have an impact on people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I'm thinking all the technical details that I didn't actually plan out so well. So that's fine.
In the future, if you want to, I have an old DSLR camera that you can borrow all you want. You can
Really?
keep it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean you can hold on to it. I've already had it.
Is it really good?
It's better than this.
It's better than that?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's so yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's decent camera for this type of stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll take you up on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. First of all, we don't know each other at all.
No, who are you? Where am I?
I mean, we know nothing about each other.
No,
I saw you in here at Think, you know, and
Talk for like a combined 10 minutes.
we were talking with everybody, and in the end, when I realized that talked up the time, my wife was going, "We need to go home because we were planning on getting to bed early," and so I said to, I can't remember her name that was sitting. You remember? Rosa. Yeah, Rosa.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I said, "Who are these people? Tell me real quick, because I'm not going to be able to talk to them."
Mm.
She was giving me a little blurb. She was great.
Yeah, she's great.
She's
great
amazing about talking about people and about
Yep.
what she's up to, what everybody's up to. She delivered it. So I was
Yes.
like, okay, I don't have so much time. And then you got up to leave, so I'm like, I'm going to talk to him.
Okay.
So, you know, what happened? How did you create this, you know, green speak?
So what happened was, in 2011, I saw a documentary called Zeitgeist Moving Forward about what problems are and how to potentially solve them.
Yeah.
And that idea has been like a splinter in my mind ever since.
Yeah.
Think about it every single day.
Yeah.
And I spent a couple of years trying to figure out how to. That day, I realized what I wanted to spend my life on. I wanted to make a real positive difference and hopefully move us toward a better world, a more sustainable world where everybody got what they needed. And I spent a few years trying to figure out how do I do that, and failed at a few things. And then one day on Facebook, I saw my friend Anders, who's also inspired by this documentary. I saw him post about he wanted to start a mobile service provider, a telecommunications service to sell subscriptions.
Okay.
And his idea was a little rough, but he wanted to use the proceeds to make a better world in some way. And I contacted him and said, that sounds like a great idea. You need some kind of video to present this idea. That's what I do. I've worked as an editor and a film photographer. And so we got together and shot that video. And the more we talked about this idea of this telecommunication company, it wasn't called GreenSpeak at the time. The more we sort of developed the idea, the more I felt like this makes sense. This is a real opportunity for me to do the things I want to do, spend my day in a way where I'm making a difference for people. And you know, your life is really just how you spend your day, and the job is how we spend our day. So it has to make sense in the job if you want to actually accomplish something that makes you feel fulfilled and happy. So we evolved this idea of GreenSpeak, that is a mobile service provider that donates all the proceeds to charity, and the customers decide how the money is divided. So we have polls twice a year where the customers come in and vote, one vote per subscription, which means I only also get one vote. I don't want to control how the money is divided. That's not my thing. I just want to help.
Yeah.
So that's really how the whole thing got started. And it took a few years where we got 2 to 3 customers a day. We didn't spend a lot of money on advertisement because we wanted to give it away. And then we were working for free for the first two, three years. And then it really took off about a year ago. And now we do it full time. And we've given more than 500,000 kroner away, almost 700,000 actually now. and people genuinely seem to love it. Which is, I'm not bragging here, I'm just, because I've done a lot of things. I've made 2 documentaries, I've done a lot of other work and music videos, and none of them have actually been popular. So I'm used to making things that just aren't popular, because I'm not really good at selling them probably also. But this is popular. People are passionate about this. They tell their friends and family, they understand that this is something they can engage in, something easy, something they already need. And we're just providing this service, and we all get together and help a lot of people.
That's so great. I loved it. When I heard about it, I thought, that's great. I mean, I don't know how you came about it. And the idea wasn't so much about how you came about the idea, because anybody could think many things. They could think, oh, greed, how can we get into this market? You know, you could think however you want, but I'm thinking, who's the person behind that? You know, what happened? What were you doing before? What happened that made you say you wanted to make some kind of difference? And you said you watched the
Zeitgeist moving forward. That one day to the other, I knew what the point of what I wanted my life to be about. I remember walking down the street afterwards, looking. It was election season, so you had election posters everywhere, and I was like, "This is ridiculous! You're trying to stand out as some leader, and yet you're wasting resources for pictures of yourself." I looked at the sidewalk and how we're still using technology for sidewalks that we used 100 years ago. Surely we can update these things, but we still do them because. Say
a little bit more about that.
So pavement. We still use big rocks. We still dig down every electrical, but we don't do it with an axis. So you have to dig everything up, which is why you see. It's probably why you see construction work everywhere all the time, because they're always trying to fix something, but they don't have easy access. These are just examples of poor design that if you really wanted to, you could probably change this if you wanted to do it in a good way that was long-term, sustainable way, you could design your way out of these problems. But we're so stuck with the way we usually do things that that's the only way that anybody can agree to do them.
I'm just thinking, I would rather have a more of an angle than you
when
we're talking, because so they can see us a little bit better. Oh yeah.
Hello.
No, I don't know. I don't like that side. It's my bad side.
We can switch.
I don't have any bad sides.
No, you don't. That's
I'm just kidding. It's all in your head. In your head. All right. Good. Is that?
A little more of you. No, it's pretty good.
All right, it's just an awkward angle to sit in too, man.
That's no good.
It's like weird.
Screwed it up.
Let's see. Camera angle is totally screwed. Okay. Are we too far back? You can get the angle you want. Wow. I'm trying not to do the homeboy lean here, but
I'll do the homeboy lean.
Here we go.
Homeboy lean, is that a thing?
I don't know what it is.
It is now.
Made it up. All right.
We moved closer.
That's good. Now we got angles. All right. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So, where were we?
We were where I'm just gonna move back a little bit, and that is gonna give us.
Oh no! Now they have to. No, okay, it's fine. And I think. Yeah, well, anyway. Are you good? Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Wait.
Sidewalks. Yeah.
Sidewalks.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
See,
but what was your background?
I have a bachelor's in English. I've worked in construction sites. I've taken courses in video production. I've studied for a year in Arizona, where I just did philosophy and film.
Wow. Philosophy and film.
Yes, I've been
both
very.
Of those together.
Well, so as the last year of my bachelor's, I could pick any courses I want. As long as I got credit. So I went to Arizona to study for a year, and I just took courses in film and philosophy.
Wow.
That's all I care about. Yes. I'm very interested in philosophy. I'm very interested in critical thinking and skepticism. I'm an atheist, but I'm also very interested in religious arguments. I don't find them very convincing, but they're very interesting. They obviously have a big effect on the world, so I think it's worth understanding. So I've done a wide array of things. But video production is really what I've spent most of my time on. That's been most of my passion. And like I said, I've made 2 documentaries one about the Danish mixed martial arts scene, and one about a young.
Have you been involved in that?
No, but my roommates, my former roommate is Damir Hatzovic, who's a professional UFC fighter at the moment. So
Okay.
yeah, so I've been part of. So some of my acquaintances are part of that scene.
All right.
Yes,
Bodyguard.
I don't need that. Not that I'll beat you up, but I'll just talk my way out of it.
Yeah, I know. You know, at one time I used to think, when I was really delusional, when I was in I would say a bad period, which I didn't know at the time, I was like, I'm a badass. Nobody messes with me, you know? Yeah. It was very interesting to notice how that attracted attention. I mean, because, you know, I study also philosophy and transformational thinking and using that stuff. So when I actually noticed it was happening with me, that I was attracting what I did not want to see. You know, like, because I had this mindset, and I was looking at it and I was like, why are you having it? Because I'd have it in certain situations where I felt threatened. That's what I noticed. That when I felt threatened, I would, don't you mess with me? Who you messing with, you know? And then I noticed that I was attracting it, and I said, now this is great.
Because because the way you get threatened, and then you act threatening, and that just causes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see it before. I did not, and this is the whole thing I know. I mean, I know this stuff. So the one thing to know this stuff and to practice it, but it's another thing to see over and over again how blind you are.
Yeah.
You know, how for me to see how blind I really am to myself, even though I know what I'm thinking and I know what I want to create, I'm not aware of the being all the time, and the being goes along with the thinking. So you know, as soon as you're thinking thoughts, as soon as I'm thinking thoughts in those situations, for example, I was in a bus and I saw some guys coming in. They were like and making a lot of noise, and I was at the back of the bus, of course. You know,
what the hell does that mean?
And I was at the back of the bus, you know, surveying, making sure I can see everything. That's
I thought it was like a Rosa Parks reference.
Yeah, it was somehow. You know, it's in the genetics. No,
I'm not gonna call
they just come out, you know, wherever they do. But anyway, yeah, and I could see the guys, you know, they were making a lot of noise, and you know, just to see, it looked like they just wanted to irritate people, and they were working their way to the back.
Of course, there were more than one. People get into groups, they become assholes.
Groupthink, you know. So they were doing it, and I thought I could see myself getting tense. Oh. And I could hear myself saying, you know, don't you come over here messing with me. And then, you know, I was sitting there and I realized, because there was an incident a couple of days before that, I realized, I said, you're, because of that incident, I shouldn't be talking about it now, but because of that incident that happened a few days beforehand, I was aware that I was causing something. It actually, the incident was an alcoholic friend that became an ex-friend that was being very intimidating. So I was sitting there and I was being aware, you're now attracting, you're in a conversation about that they're better not mess with you. Yeah. So who are you being?
Yeah, and you're only going to build it up.
Yeah, and I'm like, who am I being? So I sat with it for a second. I'm like, whoa, I'm being like, fuck you. Yeah. I'm being like, you come over here, you're gonna get some trouble. Yeah. I'm being like, I dare you. Yeah. That's what I got to.
Make my day.
Yeah. It's like, come on, I dare you. And when I saw that, I was thinking, whoa, that's not what I'm up to.
No, that's not what you want to be up to, at least.
No, it's not what I'm up to. I'm not up to that. That's not my life. That's not my mission.
I used to think a bit more like that. I've never been a violent person of any kind. But nowadays, I try to catch myself in those moments and turn it around and try to make myself disarming. And I've had some success with that. One time I saw a very drunk guy sort of messing with people at the train station, and then the train left, and it was really just me and him left. And then he looks over at me and goes, "What do you want? What?" And he starts walking over me, and I I make sure that my face is just completely calm and not reacting. And the moment he gets up in my face, he starts hugging me and crying. He just embraces me and hugging me. Now I'm sure if I'd been like, "You want to mess with me, motherfucker?"
Yeah.
It wouldn't have gone that way.
No. I know, and exactly my point. Because exactly at that point when I got clear what I'm up to, because I know what I'm up to. I'm up to transforming the world, you know, to making a difference in people's lives.
That's right.
And in the moment when I'm my identity, I'm only committed to surviving. So I know this. So at that moment when I realized how I was being, is that I'm issuing threats to people. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm so not committed to that. I'm like, I'm committed to making a difference with those guys too. And I'm like,
they need it the most.
yeah, I'm like, I'm acting like I'm separate from them.
Yeah.
See, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not. They are my brothers. And when I was sitting, I mean, I wasn't thinking this stuff out. It was just coming to me, you know. And it was like, and then all of a sudden I was filled with love, like complete love and connection. And those guys, they got closer and closer and closer. And they just sat in the chairs and they were quiet.
No.
And you know, like you said, you know, you can see danger coming at you, you know, things coming, but who you are.
How you react, how you express yourself impacts that situation.
Yeah, and we're not aware.
For good or bad.
Yeah, we're not aware of it though.
Yes.
It's so subtle. And like if you tell people, you know, you can actually, don't go out and try to change everything around you. Don't go around and try to change people into being different, you know. All you have to do is alter your way of thinking. We know this, you know, that you alter the thinking is like a filter. It's the screen that allows you to perceive the world. So the world isn't perceived as the world. The world is perceived through that filter. So that filter I was having was causing me to create tension.
Yes.
And create problems for myself, because who am I being in the moment is somebody's tense.
Exactly, because you can't control the emotions that run through you, because they're due to hormones and everything else coming out. But you can help to work how you react to those. If you recognize them, that's a good first step, because then you're like aware. And once you're aware, then you can make a decision about how to react, and that changes your feeling, which will always change the way you express yourself, your actions, and everything else.
Yeah, that's so great. Exactly. You know, this is the kind of stuff I want to give away to people, by the way. I want people to really get that it's possible to alter everything, and it's possible to alter it right in real time.
In yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but also the moment you, like I said, like you say, in yourself, right? In your head. No.
That's a song.
I know. I don't know why it's sticking with me. I mean, because the kids at where I work.
Okay, it's okay. I got James Brown on my cold sweat.
All right. So, like I was saying, this is always powerful to me. I always get happy when I discover something that's invisible to myself. I get happy that I find out I was sleeping and I wake up. Because all of a sudden I'm awake all of a sudden. When you say aware, being aware, you can't alter anything being unaware. You alter it within yourself, but then it alters everything else.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think you automatically alter things when you're unaware, but it's usually not for the better.
no.
So you create these tense moments, but you're not aware of it, so you're altering that situation.
I know. I was thinking, like, you know, in the Matrix film.
Yeah.
Right. I loved the first one. I thought it was brilliant. I couldn't wait till the second one came out. It was like it took forever to come out. And when it came out, I came away from it disappointed.
A little indifferent.
I was like, what? It seemed like they didn't have enough time to think this through, so they just made a lot of fighting.
Yes.
You know?
Seems like there's a lot of sitting around talking about deep philosophical things that may or may not be part of the story, and then you fight.
Yeah.
And then you sit down and you talk about
Yeah. I was like,
there's a
disappointed.
better balance in the film.
But I sat with it for a while because, you know, one of the things that I got from it was, as an identity, you know, the not real you, the you put on when you were very little, because you had to. Everybody's telling you how the world works and how you must be, and you were looking around to see what was the best way to, you know, respond to this world. And so you created a you know. That's not you.
No.
it's the cover, it's the clothing, you know, but it's not you, right? What's my point? So in the movie, The Matrix, right? He is he's having to deal with himself constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And what is he creating? I was thinking about it for me. He's creating like think about myself in this incident that happened on the bus. He's creating situations where he has to fight. And he's creating that he has, because he has to win. So like my identity is also a lot like that. It's like, I don't want to fight. I hate fighting when I'm in a fight. I hate it, you know. I hate it.
Sure.
So it rarely ever happens, you know. And in this late stage of the game, it never happens.
Hopefully you're too old to do that nonsense.
Yeah, but I thought I was too old for that. A couple of years ago. Yeah. Anyway, but the thing is, that was you know, that was leading up to the bus incident, because I had to see it. I had to see what caused this situation outside of what I can see. So what in the Matrix, he's fighting and fighting and fighting, and he's always fighting, and it doesn't matter. There's like, you know, 10 guys coming after him. Now there's, you know, 20, and there's 30, and there's 50, and he's just fighting and winning. But he's winning. He's fighting and winning and fighting and winning. My identity, looking at that like that, is you create an identity however you learn to win in life, you have to win. You have to create situations where you can win. You have to create situations where you're right about what you made yourself, you know. When I was a kid, I made up that I wasn't wanted.
Sure.
To compensate for that, because it was painful. I was like 6 years old, crying under the bed. To compensate for that, you know, after crying and, you know, like being in this kind of like hypnotic trance of telling myself how my parents didn't care about me and they didn't want me, and, you know, and if your parents don't care about you and want you, what are you worth?
Sure.
So, you know,
even the people who had you, if you feel like they don't.
Yeah. I mean, the only people that care to be with you don't want you. Something's really wrong with you, right? So, and the pain of all that, and then at some point to get out, to escape that pain, I said, I don't need anybody.
Which is, of course, wrong.
No.
But
I mean, it's not true. It's untrue. You know?
I think there's some healthiness. It's healthy to feel comfortable in yourself and in your own and alone. It's healthy to feel comfortable being with yourself and alone. Yes. But that doesn't mean that you don't need other people, because we're a social species.
I know, but you know, the thing is, you know, yes, I say, but yes, I'm completely with you on that. You know, it's an illusion. Yeah. It's an identity. It got created and by a kid. So who doesn't know? And this is what we all do. And this is like, you know, this is like mind-blowing, because we all go around not knowing that we created something. You know, we created a monster, you know, and we don't know that we created it. We don't know it's an illusion, that we're actually connected to everything. Everything's energy. You can't separate energy. You know, it blew up. It was this tiny little, you know, whatever that, and then it went boom, and then it went out everywhere, you know. But it's not separate. It's, you know, it's, what?
It's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, this idea that we're all energy, I guess if matter is a state of energy, sure, I could agree, because
they're saying matter is energy.
Yeah, sure, it's a different state of the same thing.
Yeah. And then there's light, and there's all this.
But all of that is a form of energy, I guess.
Yeah.
I can.
But anyway, you know, who cares what we call it? But the point is actually, if you get that we're not separate, then you cannot go around killing people. You cannot go around harming the environment, because you are it. You know, if you take
just like we tend to talk of ourselves as us and nature, but we are nature. Just because we're screwing it all up doesn't mean that we aren't part of it and will affect us, because it is us. We are it.
But we don't think like that.
No, we think
like
of ourselves as
even
separate.
if we just took it on, not like the truth, but as a place to, you know, a filter to like taking on that filter actually causes you to see things in a different way. Einstein, you know, that's how he came up with all this stuff. He actually asked some crazy questions, like, you know, I don't even know the crazy questions he asked, but they were crazy, like, okay, if light is landing here and I'm going by in a train, does it occur the same way do I see the light the same way as the person's,
The answer is no.
Yeah, but then crazy
everything is
questions that
relative to
led
everything.
him to see things that can't be seen. And the only
Yeah.
reason why they could be seen or uncovered to him was because he asked himself a crazy question and allowed himself to go through that, right?
Yeah.
So if you allow yourself to look through that, hey, I'm all connected, whether you call it energy or whatever you call it, we are all connected. If you actually get that we're connected to everything, not like maybe, or not like a good concept, but just try it on, then you have a whole different relationship to life. You don't treat things, you don't become unaware of the things around you or the people around you or situations around you. You don't become unaware. You become connected. You become alive with those things, and then they alter. The occurrence of them alter, and the occurrence of you alters. Like you said, like when I made up that sentence, it controlled my life. And without knowing it, I added bits and pieces that, because that didn't work
That
so well.
was the core truth that you had.
Yeah.
You added all kinds of stuff, and then you
Yeah.
realized later, wait, all that stuff all the thing I added all these things to, that may not be true. But then you have to sort of rearrange everything. The things you attach to it, do they make sense?
Great. Yeah, it's like it's like a building.
You got to start
you put a foundation. That's
Yes.
that core sentence,
Yeah.
and then you build everything on top, and everything holds together because of that core conversation. It holds but the real power actually is in the language. People think, no, it's not just words. Yeah, because the language we have, they're tools. Without language, we operate in a different way. But we're born into it, so we can't separate ourselves from language. We hold everything inside of language, and then so when we put sentences together and we put, phrases together and we repeat them, I repeat them to you, something happens, I go, this happened to me, and the other person goes, yeah, that's bad, and all of a sudden I'm in this whole world. It gives me feelings, it gives me certain possibilities and limitations. Anyway, maybe I just, this stuff,
I know.
because you've been studying all that stuff too. So my point to make it real is how does it work? How is it working in your life? Like what I'm getting a deep sense of who you are now, and I'm glad.
And vice versa.
Because I'm thinking you're here. You came to this group
To think DK,
yeah, think, and we were, I brought my wife to this. My wife was great. She actually reminded me to come, she said, hey, why don't you go to this? She actually was the one that introduced me to this. She saw it they had a music event, and she said, hey, you should go to that. Because I was really into music, so she said, go out and meet some people there. So it's actually because of her that I came.
Good for her.
And it's so great. I'm getting very distracted here. Anyway, and I'm sinking in the pit. I'm like, here we go.
Into the couch.
This couch is absorbing me. Anyway, let's check our time. I can't see any time here.
It's 30 minutes, about 30 minutes.
Okay, good. Yeah, great. So anyway, we've gone around in a big way. But that's what I was interested in. I wanted people, I think your project is really great. And I'm really glad you took the time, whatever time you took, that those years you took to put it together. I think it's brilliant. And I'm looking at right away also changing my subscription over to you guys.
If it makes sense for you.
It's not like, nobody's gonna make me do anything,
I'm certainly not.
with my identity, nobody's gonna make me. No.
You just need to embrace it, Dean.
No, but it makes sense, and I can stand behind it. And I saw the film too.
Second moving forward.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, yes.
It was the first documentary that actually presented a solution to some of the things, some of the problems it set up that I'd seen at least.
Yeah, and for me that was on a bigger scale because it was, all my transformational work had to do with the inner and the individual, and not so much with
Societal.
Societal and planetary. But also probably because my mission has more to do with impact this, and this will impact that, and this will spread, and the more of us that are impacting this will spread out to all those other things. So the focus for me has always been there. And I love it when other people are talking about something
That's
else.
that's interesting because I also want to affect this,
Yeah.
but I think I don't believe anymore in trying to convince people through words. Really, I don't believe in. So I never engage in discussions on Facebook. I rarely these days try to have a conversation where I'm trying to convince anybody of anything.
No.
What I think really, if you want to change the way people are and what they think and what they believe in their values, you need to demonstrate that something better can be done. A good example of this is Tesla. If they never built the fucking car, we would still be having this conversation about, is it the best, fastest, most clean car possible? Is it much better than every other car? But now we know, yes, it's much better. We can demonstrate that. The demonstration makes a real difference. So that's what I'm trying to focus on. That's also, the green speak is not us saying we could do this. Imagine if we, if a lofty
world where
world,
people,
oh, imagine. No, we built this type of company
Yeah.
and it works. There's really, it doesn't make sense to discuss it. I can just show you it works. The same thing, we do also do a yearly fair and market, sustainability fair and market, where we get together fair trade jewelry and organic clothing and vegan food and
Really?
electric cars and so it's about,
When do you do that?
it's coming up April 6th
April?
and 7th
April 6th and
for the
7th?
third year in
Yeah.
a row. And
How does anybody find out about it?
they'll find out, well, they can go to Greenspeak, they can look up Grøn KBH 2019. They can also just keep track of our Facebook page, really, because it's going to come up there. But that's all about, instead of getting a lot of people together to talk about how we want to see the world, these are booths showing what already exists. It's sort of presenting an alternative to what you already use. So there might be a different type of clothing that's better for the environment. There might be a toothbrush that's better made. It could really be anything to inspire the Danes to make more sustainable choices in their everyday lives. But inspiration comes from this demonstration. Once you feel something, you look at it, you can smell it, you can taste it. It might be a sample of food. That is much more powerful than me standing around
and
saying you should try this out.
Yes, but I say the but. I notice I'm using but.
It's okay.
No, but but again,
But that's okay.
but I think you're right. No, and now I'm sounding like a but. Yeah. So all those things are so important. You have the demonstration. I think is very powerful.
Yes.
That you mentioned that. It hits directly for me because it's really, I have been speaking for years and years and years, but I'm not interested in speaking so much as I'm more interested in that there's a result, that it's measurable, that people can see the result in their life. And I take it for granted because the work I'm doing on myself, I see the results every day. Every day, not all the time, not every moment, but every day. And I do it so much that it becomes invisible. It's just, you become
That's just normal.
Yeah, it becomes the habit. Does that mean that I have this perfect Buddha-like life? No way. There are problems, there are things that crop up, there are issues, family stuff that comes up that has to be dealt with, where, so it's
Got
not
your
like
own
that.
limiting thoughts probably still working with them. We all do.
And being uncovered, being revealed, there. So like even my wife has said to me, I created something called Master Rings, and the visual is, where they have the picture of the water droplet, and there's like water's pushed up in the air, you see the water droplet.
Oh, where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a drop.
And you can see the rings going out there. So master rings.
Okay.
And the idea is, you look at what you're completely passionate about, what it is you're really willing to live your life for, not your identity. Because your identity is automatic. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to train it. It's already there.
Yeah.
It's going to automatically choose. And it's doing the choosing, by the way. So the point is, if, like I take a look at it, if we're all connected, it would be this sea of energy or water, That's the connection, right? And so when it's still and calm, that means it's got that it's connected. Doesn't have to do a whole bunch of stuff to be connected, right? But in the moment where something occurs to us as a threat or whatever, then there becomes these huge, waves, and we have this sense of being pushed out of it all, like we're separate. That there's a deep sense of survival too, because you're separate, and so, this is, I came up with all this stuff from looking at the drop and thinking about mastering. Something simple I wanted to present to people that they could take away right away and use. So you're this drop suspended, in the air, contemplating your death because you're separate from it all, Yeah, okay, it could be you in a situation with people and being angry and, or feeling, or feeling kind of like, sad or, that could be represent the separation. And you could take yourself in that moment and recognize, have I been here before? Have I been here before?
All the patterns here I recognize.
Yeah. Do I recognize this?
Yes.
Do I get a sense of where I'm headed when I come crashing back down into this
What did I do last
stream?
time?
Yeah.
Did that work out?
Yeah, if you can just ask yourself, and then you could say, instead of me just crashing down and making big splash everywhere, unconsciously, smashing and crashing, making waves everywhere that I can, and then suffering the consequences later because I don't realize I'm creating that, Instead, you can be conscious while you're suspended. You can get conscious for those few seconds of suspension and say, what is it that I'm committed to creating in the world? So like in that experience I told you about on the bus, with the guys coming, what straightened me out was exactly that. I said, what is it that I'm committed to creating here in the world? And
What do you hope to achieve from whatever you end up doing?
It's like, really, when I die, what is the ripple I wanted to have put out there? I don't need to know what it's going to produce, because if I am aware of what I want to create, then when I come crashing down in the world, I'm sending that wave out there, and it is going to produce results, and those results are going to reflect where I was coming from.
Yeah, and you're not going to experience it, but that doesn't diminish it at all.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm actually experiencing it. In the moment, I'm experiencing.
Sure, but once you're dead, you won't. That depends on what
you
believe.
never
I guess.
know.
You never know. Sure.
You haven't thought about it, but you never know. But it doesn't matter. You don't. Like if you.
It doesn't diminish the effort and the effect it has on everybody else.
Exactly. And the thing is,
just like
Einstein,
said, he might be dead, but he still has a massive effect on everything.
He's had a huge impact. Like I said to my wife, hey, people like Einstein created this theory and all this, but there was no product from it. There came other people. Sure. There were other people that came along and hit those ideas to test.
Every single satellite satelliting around the Earth only works and can only communicate because of his special relativity understanding and law. So he didn't create anything, but he made it possible for us to really make a lot of things possible.
So it's also like what I was saying about the filter, because he asked himself these crazy questions and came up with this, and it's such a beautiful formula.
Sure, it's very clean.
It is clean, when I remember all these years looking at it and being intimidated by it, like, what the hell does that mean? Why is that brilliant? Why is that seen as genius? And I didn't say it to too many people. It was funny. My ex-wife's. Yeah, maybe I never listened. That was But my ex-wife's mother came to me, said, "I have a book for you. I think it's for you." And it was about Einstein, and it was about what was happening in his life and during the time, and what that all meant.
What inspired him? Interesting.
And what that E equals MC squared actually means. For me, it blew me away. I was like, it completely blew me away. I was thinking, this is so brilliant. But it's also because I'm listening through the filter of how can you communicate something in such a way that causes people to shift. And just the whole thing of thinking about light and then mass and then energy, time, space, all that. But thinking about that and thinking, wow, how can you get that you're separate? I mean, how can you get that? For me, it was like, you can't, and it shifted everything. Anyway, where was the point I was going with this?
Well, we were talking about, what were we talking about? We talked about so many things.
Yeah, we did, but I wanted to, I was hammering, I was like, ooh, just gonna get this point so well. Yeah, it's the droplet of water, so the master rings thing, it really is being clear what your purpose is, what you're really here, what you're really up to, and then, you know, focus on having that, you know, because whatever you focus on, that's who you become.
Yeah.
The moment you focus on that, you are that. So you almost can't separate the two things. So if you're being, and it creates your being, creates your emotions, creates all those things, and so it's having that kind of impact. So what would it be like if you were actually creating that impact, Every time you're up, you come down with that clarity. Not in order to, but like to see what shows up. So me sitting on the bus with those guys, I wasn't trying to create those guys being peaceful or anything, or anything. I was just, you know, completely becoming aware of what I'm creating, and when I, like you brought it up, the awareness. Actually, what I wanted to say about that gives choice. You don't have choice until you're aware.
No. Then you're just reacting.
Yeah, you think you have choice, but you're reacting.
I'm not sure I actually buy into this idea that we have free will. I don't think that really makes sense. So, but that's
That's another discussion.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah, it's a
discussion.
good one.
But we can absolutely have a conversation about choosing the life you want, and yeah.
That's good. Okay, we know this is a conversation for another time, and I'd love to have that one with you. So yeah, I'm super excited. So you have all these things you're doing, and you're demonstrating it. So you're putting it in the world, and it's really real. I love that, and I really hear so much good from myself hearing that. I take away from talking to you. Oh yeah, remember to demonstrate. Remember to.
It's a much
put
easier way.
it
It takes more time to do it, but once you've done it, it's much easier to convince people that this can be done because it already exists.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to say. You know, it is hard to demonstrate how what I'm talking about. Well, it's not hard actually. The demonstration of it is in the everyday life.
Yes.
When you're transforming things, everyday life transforms. You know.
But even if you transform, if you help a handful of people transform, let's just call it that.
Yeah.
Then that is your demonstration. They are now people who can speak to this demonstration only for themselves, but at least that's actually very useful. It's much better than you saying it can be done.
I get you, because that's that whole thing. You know, at some point I realized as a coach I couldn't sustain myself as a coach, and I couldn't, and it was really frustrating because it was my passion. You know? But I had to work. I had to get a job. I had to work a regular job, and the regular job I had had nothing to do with making any kind of difference. Well, you know, everything you do makes a difference, and I used it that way. Every time you know, every job I had, I made it like a game. You know, so under the guise of what difference are you making? Even in moments where I said, well, you know, I want to make a difference with people, but I was cleaning. And I was alone most of the time. I said, okay, so we started looking around, and I started saying, well, how can I make a difference with people, because I don't have any interaction with them, or it's very brief. So I said, okay, so I began to think about, okay, first of all, who you're being makes a difference. So who can you be when you're with people that makes a difference? And I said, you can just be present, and you can greet them. It's a small thing.
If you work alone and you're cleaning, then you're not.
Well, you run by people. You know,
That's
people
true.
go by you. You know, like there were people.
Yes.
We did come out of our holes. You know, and had people around. You know, but so there were brief encounters. But really, you know, it's like simple things that make a difference.
Tiny things.
Tiny things like if you're very clear about where you're coming from in life, so it doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you know, that if you become aware of that, it has that impact, and there becomes what I call miraculous things that seem to show up. And I call them miraculous because couldn't count on them showing up.
Mhm.
You didn't know they were going to show up.
And the good things.
But when they show up, you're amazed, you're inspired, you're touched, you're moved.
I can get behind that definition of
You know,
miraculous. That's
And
fine.
for me, that's like, wow, I didn't expect that. And that also gives me a lot of juice. I mean, I'm juiced up. Even when there's some really hard situations in my life, people, wonder how come I have so much energy, and why I'm so alive. One is because I separate myself from, like I look at things as they are, and then I try to notice if I'm adding something to it.
Mm.
I have a lot of people around me trying to add stuff to those situations. Oh, it's bad, and don't you feel horrible because you didn't
That's never
do
gonna work
this?
out. It's
And,
gonna go bad.
Or don't you feel bad because you didn't do this, and now that happened, and now you're gonna have to pay for this and that? And no, the thing I'm trying to do is be present
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Yeah.
What
What
is
they're
right now?
suggesting is something in the future or something in the past.
In the past, yeah.
Especially in the past,
Yeah.
which you can't do anything
You
about.
can't do anything about any of those things.
Except feel bad about
Yeah,
them.
but an identity wants to know, and this is
Yeah.
what I know. An identity is always on the lookout for danger.
Mm.
It wants to know so it can prepare itself,
Mm.
so it can deal with the danger before it comes.
Mm.
So it's busy all the time. That's why people are tired. That's why people don't have energy.
Mm.
That's why, because they're working it out.
We are way overblown over here. Holy shit.
We are
Click me.
click you.
There
I
we
click
go.
you. You know self-adjust, okay? Yeah. Anyway, that can be cured in After Effects, can't it? Maybe.
You might have to cut that out. Cured in After Effects. Yeah, we'll fix it in post.
Okay, but okay. So this was brief. I didn't prepare a whole lot. I did look at your website and because I'm like, who is this guy? And I know he has his thing. So what is this concept? So I thought it was really great. I love the video. You guys were very lighthearted.
Swip video.
Yeah, and things were around and moving,
Yeah,
and I thought that was pretty cool.
It's been a very popular video. People connect to that. They understand what it is. It's
I
a little
love
goofy, which is what we like to be. We like to be a little off the cuff, a little goofy, a little human, as we call it.
I like that. Real.
Yes,
Yeah.
we try to be.
Which
Which is in itself is actually a challenge, because when you start a company, you feel like I need to be professional. I need to make sure that I can't show too much of my goofy side because
Yeah.
people will be
they
turned
won't
off.
take me
But
seriously.
the truth is, that's how you are, and people will get really connected if you just let yourself show for who you are. But it's a real big hurdle for a lot of people, and we sort of moved slowly into it without really recognizing. It was just let's just do a video where we talk, and then it was a little goofy, and hello, and we're not doing anything. We look a little goofy. We're not dressed up in any way. And then people just started reacting to it, and we just started feeling more comfortable doing it that way. So now that is the communication strategy.
I love it because the thing is, that's what I was going to tell you about marketing. At some point I realized, that after a long time, after I'd almost given up on coaching, it was like, you don't know anything about marketing.
Mm.
Marketing wasn't even I've taken marketing in college. That was a long time ago, and that was a distant thing for me. That was something like with corporations and setting, it wasn't like, it was distant.
Mm-hmm.
So as a coach, I didn't want to be involved with marketing.
Mm.
That's
No.
not what I'm up to.
No.
But then I realized you don't know how to market. And people who are actually successful doing what they do know how to market themselves.
Mhm.
So then I started studying marketing for service professionals, and then I was blown away how simple it was. Because I'm always listening for how can you be authentic. So this brings it back to what you're talking about. Being yourself, being 100% yourself, goofy, whatever it is, because you have it all. You don't just have goofy.
No.
That's the thing.
Don't get me wrong. I
No.
take things very seriously.
No, but I get that, and that's the thing. And when I'm not just goofy too. When I was a kid, I used goofy as survival.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't break it.
Yeah, me too.
I had to be goofy everywhere.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't who I was,
It was out of balance.
Yeah, I would like the thing about having to create fights. I would be this goofy guy and people would come up and start messing with me. Well, it was a bad thing for them to do because then they got to see the other side.
Sure.
And that, and I hated them for, revealing that other side, so.
You were just trying to be goofy, and all they were trying to stop things.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like I didn't realize that Goofy was, I was basically attracting people to come over and start messing with me, But anyway, it's so great to own it all because who we are being authentic is we're all of it.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
I'm
Sometimes we're out of balance. Sometimes there's too much. It can definitely become too goofy, but it can also become too serious.
Yeah.
It become too sort of self-referential. It become too much of everything. But
pendulum swinging
Yes.
from one extreme to another,
Yes.
and Buddha was talked about being in the center of it all, so it's just be aware.
yeah, I like to think of these things like we have a tendency to think about companies as growth machines. We want growth, but if your goal is growth, then you're never going to grow up. You're always going to be in a process of growing. But when are you going to find
Never
balance?
arrive. Yeah.
I mean, a grown-up, we don't keep growing. I mean, we grow to a certain extent where our bodies can sort of maintain a balance. I think that's a good metaphor for everything you should be doing. You grow until you find a real good balance, and then you don't need to grow anymore. You can still get better at what you're doing, and you can still sort of. There's always it's called dynamic equilibrium, where you're always you look at what you got, and then you're maintaining a balance. But you're not just growing. That doesn't seem like a worthy goal in my head.
No, and it's also when you think of the mindset, if I come from, very simple mindset of connected or disconnected. If we're living as people that are separate, then you have to reach something always. You're always in the process of, and you're never arriving. Never.
So if you're connected, you already have that thing, at least a version of that thing that you were looking for.
Yeah, you have it all. You're connected to it all. So you don't have to strive for anything. I don't have to get connected with you.
See, now I'm interested. When you use the word connection a lot. But that's okay. I mean, now I'm just really interested in hearing a definition of some kind. Because when you say connected, I mean, I can agree that my understanding is that we all live in like an atom soup, where some atoms are combined in a harder way. I mean, my hand is moving through the air atoms.
Yeah.
I guess I'm connected to them, but this is just more dense, so it moves through that.
Yeah, but they're saying that it's not even dense. It's actually filled with emptiness.
Sure. I mean, atoms is mostly.
Yeah, but it's just energy. Like this energy is like.
Yeah.
You say dense. Yeah.
But when you say connected, are you meaning in some form of spiritual way, which is
no, because like you said, I'm not an atheist, but I don't believe in any religion in any sense. When I'm talking about connected, I'm talking about that there's no separation between you, me, and it, but it's invisible. I wish I was more diligent with studying the atoms and all
sure.
But this thing about the blind side experiment thing,
you mean like like quantum physics?
Yeah, where they they separate these atoms
and then one you touch one and it affects way I don't think I'm ready to make any conclusions based on that yet, but it's very interesting. It does seem to show that there's something we don't understand.
It's just something I'm thinking about right now that I remember, but at some point when I got the thing about light and energy and all this other stuff, it just, I get these epiphanies, they just come to me, it all comes to me. But it comes, how you get these epiphanies from all the things you've learned and it all comes together? It all comes together because you're listening for them. You're listening for it coming together. So you have the filter for that, and then that comes through. Like Einstein, had the filter because he was asking questions that caused him to be curious. What? And then the information came to him. So that, in that sense, I'm saying that everything is energy. You can't separate it really. It may be, way over there somewhere, but it's all, and then, a lot of people are talking about, I'm just recently, had read some people talking about that it's intelligent, you know, and I used to always say, what are you talking about? It's intelligent.
I'm not sure we have
But-
evidence for that.
Yeah, but, you know, but whether it is or not, I don't really care. What I care about is, you know, we come to it the way we come to it, right? I can't get you to come to it my way, you know, you can't come to it your way.
No,
through
if
your
I haven't
own-
come to it your way, then I have to change myself.
Yeah,
to-
yeah,
that has
yeah, I
been-
mean, you know, we can't, because
No.
we have different filters, we have different experiences.
yeah.
And our experience is the teacher, you know, and
Yeah.
so we all have a different piece of the pie.
Reality pie.
Yeah,
So-
we all have a different piece of it, and it's great, right? But what comes to me is just holding, you know, the epiphany, the information was dumped there, you know? It came, and it basically said, we're all connected. You cannot imagine, when you imagine that you're separate,
Mhm.
you're living in illusion.
Mhm.
And so if I take that on, that I'm not separate, every thought I have
Mhm.
about everything is impacting the world.
Yeah.
And ways, and I don't know it, I'm not aware of it, you know, and I won't be aware of it because things exist in places I don't know, but I am aware of it because I'm connected. So
Yeah.
part of me, whatever it is me, that it, you know, is getting all that information. It's picking it up. It's picking up waves. You can pick things up, you know. You know, people say I don't believe in. Yeah, people talk about the universe, but they talk about it like it's out there somewhere, you know.
It's right here.
Yeah.
We are in the universe, right here.
You know, it's out there, and you know, people, what they look like they're over there. Like at some point early on, when I started playing around with the concept of that I am God,
Mhm.
I am God. But then I said, okay, how can I have it that I am God? Well, then that means that I am. But what about that person over there?
If they're not any less than you, then surely they must be a god too.
Yeah, they must be
Then
God.
but then you got to be a definition about what God is. Are you talking
Yeah.
about an intelligence that's
Well-
all powerful, all knowing? Because surely you're not all knowing.
No, but just say, you know, just start playing around with that idea. Well, this is what I did. I said, well, okay, if I am God, and I look over there, but there's that person walking over there. So how can I say that I am God? I'm not saying I'm a God.
Mhm.
I'm saying I am God.
Okay.
So hold on. So say if I am God, who is that person over there? And are they not God?
Mm.
But then how can they also be God?
Mm.
So the more I start thinking about it, I'm like, well, that person could also say to themselves, they are God.
Mhm.
And it could be that, then that, what would that make me? Anyway, it's a crazy experiment. But over time, just hanging out in the experiment, just hanging out, not like it's the truth.
Mhm.
It also has
You're
brought-
entertaining an idea.
Yeah.
That's the mark of an intelligent man.
Yeah, but it's interesting because just entertaining that idea
Mm.
causes everything to show up differently.
Mm.
So one day, you know, I'm brilliant.
Once you put God goggles on.
Yeah, God goggles. I love it. So, and then you define that droplet.
Mhm.
You define what that is.
Yeah.
You know, who are you in that matrix? Who are you as the creator? So for me, how I take that on is, you are creating. Now you see what your creation is, where you want to have your creation go,
Mm.
and what's the result in the world. That's why I can stand for, you know, all that's happening here, what you're talking
Yeah, I
about
think-
with your business.
I mean, it's just an example of this affecting and getting the effect back and how you impact the world. I had started sort of a journey of a couple of years ago of just emotional mastery and being okay with just being myself. I have some rejection phobia issues again from my father and all that. So as I've been working on that, and I gotten a lot. I came far, but it wasn't until I started coming to Think DK, where we're shooting this right now,
Yeah, it's a good
that
thing,
I
don't you?
had a real opportunity to use this new knowledge that I gained to impact people positively. And I really got this sense that whenever I was talking to people here, I felt like I felt like I wanted to give, I wanted to listen, I wanted to engage, and I felt this positive energy coming back like tenfold. I think that's why Rosa ended up talking about me. Like, it's just the connection that's been made here that I don't think I could have had that space for any of that in me 4 years ago. Because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to give. I was just, if I had a conversation with you and every time you said a word that I didn't like or something I wasn't good, I would have gone into debate mode and be like, well, I don't actually think about that, and you know what. But now I'm more interested in actually figuring out what you, and then we can engage in a much more honest and open discussion, and that's my experience. I think my experience is actually when you talk to, even if you're hardcore skeptics or you're talking to a spiritual people, you end up in a conversation where you gotta watch what you say, because they think of themselves as open-minded, but they're not this really gung-ho on their worldview.
Yeah.
When I come to think, there are so many different people. So Rosa is like a punk rock musician
amazing.
with a really interesting worldview. You got Jocelyn, who's much more spiritual. You got Anya, who's fairly skeptical and really rational, and so you got a whole bunch of different types of people, but it really means these type of people, or these people, are really basic. They're very open-minded. So we have conversation where everybody disagrees about really what's going on, but nobody gets upset. It just doesn't have. Everybody's really interested in getting this new perspective. I hadn't thought about it like that. That's so interesting. You just added something to my life by telling me you don't agree. And I don't find that very many different places, but I find it a thing.
Questioning.
How dare him?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, nobody's getting triggered here. Nobody's getting triggered. So, yeah, which is why I keep coming back, because I love the people behind it and the space and so.
I'm loving it, and I can't wait to, and I want to, like I told Martin, that I also want to interview him and yet everybody here.
You should.
Actually. And I want to draw people to attention to this place.
Yeah.
And I just discovered this place.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, when I said I've been here a couple of years ago, but I came here, when was it we were here last?
It was a week ago.
A week ago. So, was it only a week ago?
It was Friday, yeah.
Jeez, man, it's amazing.
The whole lifetime.
You know, I tell my wife, I say, why can't you remember all these dates and things? And I said, I don't know. I said, I think what's going on is that I'm using so much have a lot of my attention on what's right now, and I've been practicing that a lot.
Maybe to be honest, especially if it's dates in the past, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
I mean, that's not important. And if it's dates in the future, just look at your calendar.
Yeah, there's a whole conversation there. But what I thought about it exactly, I thought after meeting up with you guys a week ago, I was thinking, this is great, this is the place. This is the place. I want to bring people here, and I want to come here, and I want to be, not want to be, I will be a contributor to that energy space, and I have some ideas on how we can make it grow. But the big thing is people should know about it.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who want to know about it.
Yes.
So, if people are interested, they want to be interested in meeting up with some great people and being involved in some.
And they have so many different type of events. I mean, so it's one part it's like a sustainable think tank, but another part is like an event space.
Yeah.
And the events are so there's a film book club thing. You got courses, you got music, you got dancing, you got all kinds of different type of things, and then you have these Friday bars, community dinners where we just get together and sort of talk and hang out. And it's really and it's really the people behind it that just create this welcoming space, and hopefully they invite more people, hopefully like us.
Yes.
That are also welcoming and open.
Yeah, we might outgrow the space. I don't know how that'll be a good problem to have, wouldn't it?
Probably. But
Yeah.
that's not up to me. I'm just a member.
You're just a member.
No, that's not true. Through Greenspeak, you can actually. It's one of our support projects.
Is it?
So yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering about.
So if you sign up for Greenspeak, you can vote for Think if you want to.
That's what I was thinking about when I came here. I was thinking, they should be on the.
That's how I got to know them. So it wasn't even my idea to get them as a support project. I just showed up to help with some video at one day. I got to talking to Jocelyn, and she's just lovely. So, and she's hilarious. And so I was like, I'm gonna come back just to talk to Jocelyn. And then she went to Canada for six weeks. So, and then there was a Friday bar or something. I figured, I'll show up and see if it's fun. And then I started talking. That gave me an opportunity to talk to Anya and Rosa. I was like, these people are all great, very different.
Yeah.
They're not like Jocelyn at all, but
It's not
very
a
different.
carbon copy.
Yeah, exactly.
Who wants a carbon copy, man?
No.
I'm talking to you. I don't want another you here.
No.
You
You
know, I'd
wanna be
rather talk to
surprised?
you.
No, you can just talk to me. You don't want to talk to my copy.
I want to talk. Yeah. Speaking of the Matrix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Copy. Yeah. So I think we probably used the hour.
Probably, yes.
It's been great.
It was a
Let's see.
joy.
That was fun. Wow. It was an hour and 5 minutes. Woohoo. Oh, hold on.
Still
What am
recording.
I doing? No, it stopped.
Okay.
It's, fiddly widdly. Fiddly widdly. Say done. Good.
Good.
Wow.
That was
it's been a
fun.
good time, man.
That was fun, man.
That was fun. And,
It
and
was-
you know what I love about it? It's completely unexpected.
Yes, we don't know where we're going. This reminded me more. I didn't talk about this. We also do a podcast called Grøn Snak, where we
Really?
talk about
Okay.
sustainable solutions. So we get guests.
Why
in.
podcast versus video? Sorry to
It
interrupt
is
you.
video.
It is video.
We should. Yeah, a podcast can't be video these days. So it's both video with angles. We could use GoPros. Everybody gets
Can
an
you
angle.
help me set up something like that? So when I do, give me some ideas.
I can, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Let me,
But so you said interview. This reminded me a lot more about a podcast where we're engaging in ideas.
Yeah.
And the whole setup, and you can cut it into pieces. We do that. We make highlights of an hour show. We make highlights in part of it and put those out. But yeah, this reminded me a lot. There's real value in this podcast type. If you find an angle that you can sort of set. Now our angle is sustainable solutions. So we're always talking about someone who's presenting a solution.
Okay.
Not just a politician talking about
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
or someone complaining. That's not what we do. We talk about, you have this thing that you sell or make or whatever. Let's talk about that and see what the challenges are.
Yeah, well, I guess if I had to look at sometimes I'm thinking, what's my angle? Because I have several different things that I want to do. But really the angle is, what I said with my business type was, I want to work with people who are committed to transforming the world.
Mm-hmm.
And people are actually doing something about it.
That's a good angle
Because-
for how to choose your guests.
Yeah, and the people that I want to coach, the people that I want to go through my programs, I want them to be people who have so much commitment to making that difference, and they are doing it, but they get stuck.
You could
and
even,
I have tools.
I mean, you
for
could even
getting them unstuck.
You could even call it committed to change.
Committed to change.
That could be a title.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sounds too excited. Too exact. But it may be, yeah, because this one, I had looked at calling it, the actual YouTube channel interviews, but I'm thinking
inner as in no T, two N's.
yeah,
Interviews. I like that.
interviews, yeah. But I was thinking, maybe it's not concrete enough for people to know what it's about.
The title is difficult to make very concrete. Ours is Grøn Snak. It's just,
Yeah.
you still got to do some interpreting to understand what.
Yeah, but once you say a little bit about what you're up to, it totally makes sense,
Yeah.
right? And same with interviews. It's about, I want, to talk about authenticity. When people are authentic, you're just like blown away by them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who they are.
And you once you hang out with authentic people, you start realizing when people are not authentic. You're like, oh, so cute, you're so fake. I mean, I see that once in a while, like, oh, you are posing, you're acting.
Yeah.
That's cute.
I
And
know.
it doesn't make me angry anymore.
No, but
back
you
when I
can
did-
see it.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, because I keep hanging out keep making myself hang out in no separation conversation, is that I can see when people are moving, where
Yeah.
they're moving. And also as a coach, I've trained myself to see where people are moving and talk to it. So I don't see them as separate or different than me, because I know I'm doing exactly what they do too at times, and to different degrees, and I'm not unaware of it.
Yeah.
So I have total compassion for people where they are, unless I'm my identity, then I have no compassion. And I'm just
It's
impatient,
got to be room for that. too.
asshole, you know, no better. And by the way, I don't need you.
Yes, exactly. Pushing people away. So helpful.
Yeah, they don't exist. You know? I remember it's so funny too because later in my life, you know, I mean, earlier in my life, but earlier in my life, I could hear myself saying when I would be irate,
Mhm.
do they think I need them? I know it's funny. Now it's funny as hell, but I mean, I was completely like, you know, upset.
Mm.
I'd be in there, what? Do they think I need them?
Mm.
Do they think I'm hanging around them because I need them for something, you know? But not, you know, and, you know, in my so-called state of where I thought I was very understanding is because I wasn't hanging out with them because I needed something from them in that regard.
Mm.
It wasn't like, but I thought, but they think that I need to hang around with
Right.
them. And so they think it's okay to, you know, say or do whatever they do.
Because what are you going to do? Leave them?
Yeah, yeah. So that was the arrogance behind it. It's like, they think I need them?
Mm.
I don't need anybody. I mean, I don't. And like I told my wife when we used to argue with each other at times, she'd say, oh, when you leave me, you're going to be all alone, this, that, and I'm like, I said, you shouldn't talk to me like that because I said, I have an identity. And my identity loves to be alone.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of this going on where people actually, their identity is tied to other people. I've done that in relationships. So when inevitably I became desperate or, you know, and we broke up, I felt like I didn't know who the hell I was or what to do.
We lose ourselves.
So it's very important to get to a point, at least I think so in my life, it's very important for me to get to a point where I'm okay being myself. So if stuff doesn't work out, I'll be fine. I'm
Yeah,
okay.
and you know, to add on to that, being okay with being yourself is key.
Mhm.
And then the next step is, and then being yourself.
No.
Especially when it's not okay.
And yeah, exactly. And then you can start to add social things. You know, then you can start adding people, but they're an add-on. They're not necessary for you to be okay.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the great thing because people can come and go. If you're aware of who you are and what you're up to, people
Flow in and
they
out.
flow.
Yeah.
There's flow. You know,
I think you also become more attracted. No, more attractive.
Yeah,
to
you
people.
do.
You
And
really-
the thing is, people like
It's
I know
ironic.
a lot of people want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
You know, and a guy at work, he's a great guy. You know, and I'd love to hang out with him. He's doing certain things that I wouldn't be doing. That's why I won't be hanging out with him in that sense. And but it's like, oh, I don't want to. I'm not trying to put him down because the thing is, we are connected. He's great. He's a fantastic guy. He's got so many great, you know. He's a great guy.
Mhm.
In my world, he's a great guy. But he came to me and he said, look, you know, I want to see more of you. Let's go. Can't we do something together? You know, and I looked at him and I was just like, I would love to say yes. I would love to because, you know.
But what did you tell him?
I said, but we will probably never be hanging out and
Okay.
doing things.
Did you give him a reason?
Yeah, he said, but why? And I said, because I said, over time, I've realized that my kids were very important to me and my family. And I had spent so much time going outside, trying to make my band, trying to do this other thing, and had lots of friends and was having parties and doing this, that, and the other, and scattered all over the place.
Mhm.
And when I met my wife, she slowly started putting a chop on things with me, you know? And I hated it because, you know, that's,
Never in my life.
yeah, it's my life. But, you know, but it wasn't working.
No.
It really
I
wasn't.
mean, if you have children, I don't have children, so I can be
Yeah, but I don't
free
even
as I
live with
want.
them, so it's not even like that. You know, it's like there's when you start cutting at this onion, you start to see their deep levels of blindness.
Yeah.
You know, in my life too. You know, deep levels of where I thought I was doing the right things, but they didn't end being the right things. You know, and so I'm not saying that. It's just that I that's what I did. I decided to prioritize, and I started cutting off how many people I saw in events that I was going to. The relationship, my wife really got me to see, just being with her, she really got me to see that it's hard for me to be with one person, you know, that really I'm always on the lookout for something better. And my identity type, you know, Enneagram, it's a 7. sevens are always on the lookout for something new and different, and always out in the future. So we're very good at seeing trends and all that stuff. I identify with that. I can see that has been a part of me. So how was it to deepen yourself in a relationship and actually? Yeah, there was this thing about I have to speak my truth. So we had battles. I mean, if anybody was a part of that battle, could not understand how we could come out an hour later and be
okay.
in love. You know? Or maybe a battle for a day or 2 days, battle, and I mean, and still have this freedom, this full self-expression, passion, that we have, And I don't tell a lot of people about that. I tell them about the trot. When I tell people about it, it wasn't until recently where somebody said, "Do you know you speak kind of badly about your wife?" And I said, "Really?" I'm like, "That wasn't what I was intending." I said, because I'm basically talking about how when we get in arguments or fights, and then what I have to transform of myself.
It's because she's part of she's an inevitable part of the story of your transformation.
She is. She's a big part of it. And the reason why I probably, really, I don't exaggerate, but why I really emphasize how she occurs to me, but I forget to mention maybe the occurrence. That it's not real, and I need to emphasize that so much more, and I also need to let them know what I'm dealing with when it's not like that.
Yeah.
But because a woman is magical, amazing, inspiring,
Good thing you're getting this in camera.
yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, she's. I mean, and
she's beautiful. She's
she's
accomplished.
Absolutely, and I don't want to sell that up because I don't want every guy in town wanting to.
She's terrible.
Yeah, that's what I do at work when it comes to candy and stuff like that. Bad stuff. Don't want any of it. That cake, no, don't. I will take care of it for
I'll
you
take care of
because
it.
I have to. But and I, the kind of good guy I am.
Yes.
But
Real
don't
Samaritan.
go there. So anyway, let's end that. Really great talking to you, man.
We're talking to you.
Really great.
It was a pleasure.
I'm like no separation.
No.
Amazed, blown away, inspired. Really, I'm
This was
so
a
happy
much more
for what you're up to and that you're doing it, you're demonstrating it. Really.
Thank you.
And this is what I hope that anybody watching this or anybody that watches this gets inspired and, makes some difference.
I hope so.
Take
too.
some step, It took a step for me to come in here to think. It takes a step for me to cut off because, like I told somebody, I know so I would stop this.
No.
I told someone here, I said, I realize that I'm judging and assessing everybody. And she went, what? And I'm like, yeah, but that's the great thing. I love it because the moment I realize that I'm doing that, I don't think I do that. This is not what I'm up to. I haven't trained myself to go around judging and assessing, but still I'm doing it. It's automatic judging and assessing.
We all do it.
We all
make
do it.
sure there's no line to attack and whatever. So.
We're automatically doing it. That's what it blows me away, and it also wakes me up. It's like I come in the room and I'm like, oh, people look kind of boring and talking about nothing. I can see they're not fully self. My brain is like saying stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to that, and I go, this is so funny how it just keeps running. And I sit myself down and I let myself hear the noise, and then it just fades off. And I'm just being present. Who are you? What's up here? What's going on? And the brain still talks. It doesn't talk as loudly, but it still sends, The only way I know it's happening is when something happens that doesn't fit what it's saying. Then I know that's when it reveals itself.
Then that's a preconceived notion that you've been working with. All of a sudden you're confronted with this preconceived notion that doesn't match with reality as you experience it.
Yeah.
Then you have to take note.
Yeah, then I'm like, and that's the miracle I'm talking about, the kind of miracles. I have this, another thing I call love and miracles, out of nowhere. And that is the thing about being connected with people. When the process is exactly that. You notice where you are, and you notice it because things will show you signs that something's off. And you notice the pattern. Like I notice, I'm making judgments and assessments, which causes me not to be present. I'm doing that. Who are you? And then all of a sudden, I'm blown away.
Yeah.
Things that I never expected to come out of that person you know.
Then
all
it's
of
a
sudden-
process of discovery instead of process of evaluating. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, the process of being curious,
Yes.
you know, there's aliveness there, you know. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's
I'm
so
sure you're
cool.
gonna have a lot of good conversations.
I
with
can't
people
wait.
Without us 1 minute.
Anyway, handshake, and we will get